Hi guys, welcome back to the second episode of The World's a Little Lopsided. I am your host, Kalathma, and today I'm going to be talking about beauty, self-acceptance, confidence, and how to feel pretty. Um, I do want to mention this video was not supposed to be a podcast episode. This was technically supposed to be a traditional Q&A, but I've gotten a lot of messages from people asking me if I can just do a podcast episode on how I'm so confident and how I feel pretty. So I've decided to listen to the people this time. So this is that episode. Before I do tell you, before I get started with the episode, actually, I do want to mention I'll be talking about my own experience. I'm not going to tell you guys how to feel, what to do, how to do things, who to associate with. I'm not going to tell you how you should go on your journey because that's not my place. I think beauty and self-acceptance is a unique journey, and that sounds very cliche and so boring. I know, but it's true. And if you haven't already been on that journey, I'm kind of cringing while I'm saying it, but if you haven't already been on that journey, you might find it hard to believe. But yeah, it's cliche because it's true. um how do I start this video? Because I have so much to say, so little time, and I don't exactly know where to start. Because I think, obviously, I'm 17. I'm just a 17-year-old kid. What do I know? But I think, obviously, when we're all younger, when we're like, I don't know, around the ages of 4, 5, 6, we feel like we're on top of the world. We feel like we can do anything, you know? Like, I think around that age, everyone has a lot of sunshine and spark in them. But as time goes on, that spark kind of deflates a little because the more we're put out into the world, the more we realize life isn't sunshine and butterflies. The world isn't full of rainbows and unicorns. And that's kind of sad because My Little Pony was my favorite show, but it is what it is. And there's nothing we can do about it. But you can always find your way back. I know most of us were like very happy as kids, but then as soon as we hit 13, we're like depressed and we're like, oh my god, I hate the universe. But then as we grow up, we realize not everything in the world is bad. Not all the people you meet in life are terrible people. And the more you realize that, the more comfortable you get in your own skin, honestly. Because I'm going to be honest, school was not the best time for me. I absolutely hated going to school. I excelled academically, of course. And of course, I had my best friends. But apart from that, I didn't exactly feel like I was accepted in school. I'm going to be honest, I think I was pretty goddamn ugly when I was in school. Okay, maybe not ugly. Maybe I looked fine, but I felt ugly all the time. Like, I don't know how to say. Sorry. I my laptop is on the verge of dying. I'm not looking at a script or anything. It's just my light is plugged to my laptop. So, what was I saying? Yeah, but anyways, I felt ugly when I was in school because I wasn't always the popular kid. I wasn't, the prettiest. Or at least I didn't feel that way. I was kind of one of those nerds in the back of class. I was the girl with the long braids and the terrible donkey cart and the nerd glasses. Like, that's who I was. I was a pretty weird kid as well. I made references to things that nobody knew. Like, I knew what Alexandria's Genesis was, and I remember I made a joke about it in class and nobody else knew what it was. So yeah, I felt pretty isolated. I felt pretty alone. And that definitely did chip away at my confidence. Like, I remember by the time that I left school, which was in grade 10, I just felt like nothing. I felt absolutely terrible. And the way I tried coping with low self-confidence was I tried to change my haircut. Like every month. And it's so silly now that I think about it. But I'm glad that I did experiment with the amount of haircuts that I did, because now I've settled on the wolf cut and I think this suits me perfectly. But that was a time where I had like really, really short hair like a guy. I had really, really long hair because I wanted to be Rapunzel. I don't know, dude. I did everything to my hair except bleach or dye it. So that was my way of coping. But while I admit I did find some comfort in expressing myself through fashion, I wouldn't say that was the thing that made me feel like myself. I don't really know how to explain, because confidence is a feeling, right? To me personally, it's like you and I feel emotions very differently. You feel anger differently. I feel anger differently. You feel sadness differently. I feel sadness on a completely different spectrum. And confidence is just something like that. I'm not going to feel confidence the same. You're not going to feel confidence the same. And I think it's about finding, I don't know. I think you have to find how you feel about things first, and then you have to figure out what confidence means. Like, I don't know if that makes sense even, but maybe I'm just yapping utter nonsense. But for me, I feel things very, very deeply. I am such a deep feeler. Sometimes I wonder if anybody else will ever feel or understand what I'm going through, because I just feel so much. And if I feel sadness as much, if I feel anger that much, obviously I'm going to feel emotions like happiness and confidence that much as well. And the way I cope with my emotions is... The way I like to cope with my emotions is complicated, because I don't know what I'm doing half the time either. But I feel the most confident when I know that I'm standing by my morals and I'm standing by what I believe in. That is how I feel the most confident. That is where I feel the most confident. And that's not where you're going to feel the most confident. You're probably going to feel the most confident when you're experimenting with new hairstyles, when you're experimenting with a new style of clothing. And that's okay. Confidence is not the same to everybody. And I know some people have to say, oh, you have to fake confidence to get it. And that could be true for some people, but that's not true to me. Because when I fake an emotion, I feel like I'm faking a part of myself. So I can't fake confidence. When I'm not confident, it shows. But when I am confident, it shows too. But that's just the duality of human nature, I guess. It varies from person to person. Nobody's ever experienced the same thing the same way. So don't put yourself down just because you haven't figured out what makes you feel confident. Because it's a journey. And it's going to be a bit of a long one, because I'm going to be honest, I left school, I would say in 2022, and I started experimenting with my hair in like 2021. And I think I would say I only started to feel confident like last year. So it took me like 2-3 years to get to that point. But don't let a slow journey put you down, because a slow journey is a good journey. And there will come days where you're not going to feel beautiful, because there are days where I wake up and I feel like shit. I told y'all I'm going to be pretty vulnerable in this episode, because my journey with accepting myself the way I look has been kind of long and kind of treacherous, because there were days when I was younger where I used to wake up and I used to wish I wasn't born with my disability. Sometimes there were days where I woke up and I wished I didn't wake up at all. Just because of the way I looked. Because the way you look in a society like ours is actually important. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like being pretty doesn't give you privilege. Because it does. Being pretty is like a currency. And no matter how much you try to deny it, it's true. But I do want to say something else with that, which is, if you are being given something for free, if you are being granted access into something for free, you are the product. So keep that in mind as you navigate life, because that's a lesson that I have had to learn in the past 3 months. The 3 months that I properly started doing content. So yeah, just keep that in mind, especially if you're a girl. Even if you're a guy, but especially if you're a girl. I think beauty is very subjective. So if someone's like, oh, that's beautiful, but you don't feel the same way, that's fine. But don't go at their opinion and be like, oh, that's not beautiful, you're lying. What's the point of that? If someone thinks something is beautiful, let them think that is beautiful. And if you think something is beautiful, enjoy it. I genuinely mean it when I say enjoy beautiful things. Because beautiful things you're not gonna see beautiful things every day. You're not gonna experience beautiful things every day. And when I say beauty is subjective, I mean some people can think of some people think beauty is brains. Some people think beauty is the way you look. But for me, I think beauty is just being a good person. Actually, I'll tell you guys, I am an avid reader, right? Let me just open my phone gallery and let me pull this out, because I have been an avid reader since I was like really, really young. I'm not even going to bother do the maths, because I've loved reading since I was a child. And there was this one quote from Roald Dahl in his book, The Twits. And I'm going to read that for you, because not a day goes by where I don't think about this quote. And I think you should hear about it as well, because I think this is so true. And the quote goes, "A person who has good thoughts cannot ever be ugly. You can have a wonky nose and a crooked mouth and a double chin and stick out teeth. But if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you will always look lovely." And reading this quote, I was like, I think 6 or 7 when I read this. That quote meant the world to me, because I wasn't always accepted for the way I looked. I was accepted in school, obviously, because, kids knew I was disabled. I was accepted by my family, sure. But whenever I went to birthday parties, whenever I went to functions that involved kids that I had never met previously, I remember I always felt very isolated, because other kids would often think of me as a monster just because I couldn't look straight. And that definitely did hurt my feelings. And the reason this quote hit so deep was because I was called a monster and I was called ugly by other kids. And The Twits is a book about a couple, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read the book in ages. I just got the quote of Google for the sake of this video. But if I'm not mistaken, The Twits is a book about this young attractive couple that grows up to be ugly, nasty, terrible people that abuses their pet monkeys, I think. I haven't read the book in ages, but this quote hit so close to home because it made me feel less like a monster. And that sounds kind of sad, but it made me funnier, so it's totally okay. But you know what? It's actually fine. I'm over it now. I'm fine. I promise you guys. It's just, I don't know. I had to find that beauty within myself. I had to take what beauty meant to me and completely redefine it. And that's okay. If you have to redefine something just so you can fit into it, do it. Go for it. Because no one else is going to do that for you. If you wait for someone to do that for you, you're going to be waiting forever. Like, I know in every single great love story these days, we have the protagonist who feels insecure, and then the love of their life comes along and shows them that they are actually wonderful. But I'm telling you, don't wait for somebody to come around and tell you how amazing you are. Don't wait for somebody to come around and show you that you are worthy of love, because you can do that yourself. If you can do that yourself, why would you wait for anyone else to do it for you? I think, listen, I want to get married, obviously, but that's not a priority for me. Like, if I died and I wasn't married, I wouldn't be pissed about it. What I would be pissed off about is if I died and I didn't have a PhD, then I would be really mad. But if I died and I wasn't married, I wouldn't be mad. And I know that's not the case for some people, because a lot of people value getting married. But this is where this thing that I like to call the wedding effect kind of comes in. It's a term that I coined for a theory that I have in my head. So I like to call it the wedding theory, if you will. It's basically where a person will spend their whole life thinking about their wedding, the wedding dress they're going to wear, the florals that are going to be at their wedding, where the wedding is going to take place, how many people are invited, who they're going to invite. They're going to spend all that time thinking about the wedding and not enough time thinking about who they're going to marry. Because I do see that a lot, right? Because I think a lot of people are so excited for a wedding to happen that they aren't exactly excited by the thought of their partner. They're just excited for the wedding. And this goes into play with the whole beauty standards thing, because you need to be able to find beauty in yourself before you are able to find beauty in other people. Because if you think you're ugly and if you constantly point out your flaws to yourself in the mirror, that's all you'll ever do for other people. I think internal beauty manifests. What is up with my English? I think internal beauty manifests itself very well in your outward appearance. You may not always be conventionally attractive, but people will still think you're very pretty. Because people think I'm pretty and I have a nerfed eyeball. So, I don't know. That should say something, right? Just don't put yourself down because you don't look like every other supermodel on the planet. Don't put yourself down because you have a bit more weight than other people in your class. Don't put yourself down because you're skinnier than other people in your class. Don't put yourself down because you have a disability. Don't put yourself down because other people seem to be moving on with their lives much faster than you are. Life is beautiful because your friends, they smile when they see you, and street cats will come up to you and ask you for food, and strangers on the internet will put their favorite picture as their profile picture. Strangers you don't know on the internet will be dancing with their loved ones on TikTok. Like, life is too beautiful for you to be self-centered about your appearance. Don't do that to yourself. Because especially if you are in school, especially if you are in the same hometown, it's gonna feel like your looks, the thing that people make fun of you for, is the only thing that will ever matter in your entire life. But that's not true. The more you go out and the more you experience the world, the more you realize what people used to bully you for is what makes you unique. And while yes, that can be a prison to some, it's also a blessing. So count your blessings. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take your youth for granted. Because you're never gonna be able to walk up a flight of stairs like that again. Even if you might be heavily panting in a couple, like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years, you're gonna have knee pain. So just love yourself. Again, that's so cheesy, but loving yourself doesn't mean having an ego about who you are. Loving yourself is accepting who you are, accepting your flaws, accepting that you can do better at it, and improving yourself and doing better. If you can hear background noise, I think it's because my family is watching a movie in the background. Please ignore that. But yeah, beauty and confidence is a very big topic, and it varies from person to person. I'm not gonna lie, I was bullied a lot when I was younger, mostly because of my eyesight, mostly because I was insufferable, mostly because I didn't shut up, but mainly because of my eyesight. Kids didn't actually want to play with me, but now people actually think my eyesight, the way that I look, is probably the best thing about me. Because if my friends ever wanted to find me in a crowd, they could just be like, hey, did you see the girl with the weird eyeballs and the fair skin? So, you will find your people someday. Until then, I'm trying to find the right way to say this. You will find your people someday, but until then, you have to make yourself the person that you want to be around. Because even if you marry, even if you start a family, at the end of the day, we will have ourselves. And ourselves entirely to rely on. That was supposed to be motivational. I don't know what is up with my English today. But yeah. Don't put yourself down for the way you look. Don't put yourself down for the way people treat you, because the more you walk out into the world, the more you get to experience amazing things about life, the more you're gonna realize a lopsided eyeball is not the worst thing that can happen to you. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to subscribe. I'm really sorry that this video took this long to come out. I'm just setting stuff up at this point. Also, I hear you guys. I hear that you guys want book content, and it'll come. I promise. I will. I've experimented a lot with my content the past 3 months, and now that I have, I feel confident that I've found my voice. So yeah, the book content and the writing content will be coming right up, I promise. Just give me a little bit more time. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for watching. You are beautiful as always. Be kind on the internet and stay positive. I love you guys. I will see you in another one. Bye.